Hello everyone, my name is Roman, I'm a professional baker, and so today I'm going to show you how to use the sourdough box. So I'm going to be your guide and show you all the tips and tricks that you need to know to make the perfect bread. So first let's talk about what you will find in the box. So you have different type of flour. The bread flour that we will use for the mix, the sourdough flour that we will use to feed our starter. You'll have extra flour for dusting. You will have a little bag of salt, some dehydrated starter. I'm going to show you in a minute how to rehydrate it. Different tools for baking. So we'll have a scraper, a blade that we'll use to score the bread, a banton. This is more for the proofing, overnight proofing of our sourdough, and a little brush that we will use to clean the banton once we are done with it. Okay? So let's start to make our sourdough. Okay, so the first step of our baking is to rehydrate the sourdough starter. So bear in mind, this whole process is going to take 3 days in total before we get the bread. It's not going to be 3 full days, it's going to be mainly waiting, no worries, but it's going to be 5 minutes here and there that you will have to take care of your sourdough and your bread during those 3 days, okay? So to start this process, in a plastic cup, or in a bowl, or in a jam jar, whatever you want to use, we are going to put the totality of our dry starter, okay? And we're going to add 28 grams of warm water. Just like that, okay? Now, just give it a little shake, a little stir, and we're going to leave it rest on the side for 3 to 4 hours, just to really give the time to this starter to dissolve in the water before we start to add flour, okay? So after 4 hours, our sourdough starter should be now diluted, okay, in the water. So what we are going to do is add another 14 grams of warm water, just like that, and 28 grams of flour. So for this, use the dusting flour, it is extra. So use this bag, okay? So 28 grams in there, and we are going to give it a stir, combine it. We should have a nice and soft dough, okay? Voilà. Now we are going to leave it on the side, okay? Cover for another 6 hours, 4 to 6 hours, okay? So again on the side, we come back to it later, right? So now after 4 to 6 hours, you should start to see some activity going on at the surface of your starter, some little bubble, okay, appearing. So we are going to do the process again, 14 grams of warm water and 28 grams of flour, okay? We are going to mix it gently, just to have a nice and soft dough, and leave it rest again for 4 to 6 hours. So we are going to repeat this process maybe 1 more time or 2 times until we really see a lot of bubble happening, okay? We want to see a lot of going on, and then we'll be ready to start our sourdough, okay? And here we are now. So you should have, at this time, if you did well, and I'm sure you did, a very nice and bubbly sourdough starter. So what we are going to do now is to prepare it and feed it for our bread. So I'm going to take 50 grams only of our sourdough starter, okay? So only 50 grams, just like that. This is the rest. You are going to keep it for your next baking, okay? So every day, just feed it with a spoon of flour and a spoon of water, okay? Mix it every day, tablespoon of each, just to keep it alive. If you don't want to bake every day, just put it in your fridge and feed it every 3 days, or keep it in your freezer and simply mix it every month. Just give it a refresh just to make sure it's alive, okay? But for now, we're going to take 50 grams of our sourdough starter, 100 grams of warm water, okay? When I say warm, it's about 30 degrees. Don't put boiling water into it, okay? And we're going to put the totality of our bag called the flour for starter. Okay, that's 100 grams of flour too. So we put all of these, and we are going to gently mix it. So this is basically the exact quantity that we need for our bread. The exact quantity of starter that we need for our bread, okay? So every time you will do a bread, you can redo the same recipe, huh? So just take 50 grams from your main starter, refresh it with water and flour, and we'll use it in the bread, okay? Alright, so we are just going to mix it all together, just like that, okay? Till it's nicely combined. So what we are going to do now is simply cover it with cling film, leave it rest at room temperature in our kitchen for 3 hours, okay? And I will see you actually in 2 hours, so 1 hour before this is ready to do the premix, also called autolyse, okay? It's gonna be simply mixing the water and the flour to prepare it to be mixed with our starter, okay? So I see you in 2 hours. Okay, so our starter has been now resting for 2 hours. So we have 1 hour left. So in the meantime, we're going to do the autolyse, also called the premix. So for this, we are just going to put the totality of the flour bag mix, okay? So in a large bowl, just put the 600 grams of flour, and we are going to add 400 grams of water. So room temperature water, you can use it from the tap, it's totally fine, okay? So 400 grams, just like that. And we are going to mix it by hand or with a spatula or a spoon, depends how comfortable you are, but I recommend it to do it by hand, okay? So we are just going to combine it all together. The idea is just to hydrate the flour right now. We want the gluten to relax and the dough to get more elastic, you know? So we just combine it all together for now. Voilà. It's a bit messy, it's a bit sticky, but it will get better. Alright, so don't hesitate, just go for it. Just really work out the dough, huh? Really mix it. Scrape the side a little bit, just like so. When you have a nice dough like this, we are just going to leave it rest, cover it with cling film, okay? Leave it rest for another hour, and so then our starter will be ready. We are going to combine them together, okay? So just cover it with cling film in the side of your kitchen, and I'll see you in 1 hour. Okay, so now our premix, autolyse, and starter are both ready to be combined together. We can see the autolyse is much more stretchy and elastic than it was before, less sticky also. So our starter, using the scraper, we're just going to put it on the dough, just like that. Yeah. I have a little container of water just here. I'm just going to dip my finger into it and incorporate the starter in the dough. The water is made just to prevent the dough from sticking to your finger. Huh? Right. So mix it well, just like that. It's just gonna take a few minutes. Now we are going to add the salt. So use the totality of the salt. Huh? So all the salt on top. Add a few drops of water. It's just to help dissolving the salt into the dough. Rub it a little bit. And we keep on mixing. When you don't feel any more pieces of salt and the dough has absorbed all the water, then we are going to put all the dough on our table. Voilà. So use your scraper, make sure there's nothing left in the bowl. Voilà. Just keep your bowl on the side, we're going to use it again in a minute. Voilà. So now we're going to do what we call a slap and fold, basically. So we're going to grab the dough, slap it on the table and fold it on itself, right? Slap it and fold it. Slap and roll as you wish, okay? So we are going to repeat this process like that for about 5 minutes. And you will see the dough will get elastic, more and more elastic, and will stop cracking. So as you see now, the dough kind of split very easily. So the more you will do that, the more you will build some strength into your dough and some elasticity as well. So just keep going like this, do this movement for about 5 minutes. Until the dough is getting elastic. So if the dough sticks a little bit on your table, don't hesitate to use your scraper and just scrape around, bring out the dough. Okay? And keep on mixing. It's been about 5 minutes now. It's been about 4 or 5 minutes now. I can see the dough is a lot more elastic. It doesn't break as much as it used to before, okay? Voilà. Voilà. So when it's like this, just using your scraper, go around the dough, form a nice round shape, okay? And we are going to put it back in our bowl, voilà, just like that. And so we are going to cover it with cling film or with a cloth, if you have a cloth, choose a cloth as well. And we are going to leave it rest for 2 hours. In 2 hours we are going to give it a fold and leave it rest again for 2 hours, okay? Alright, so I see you in 2 hours. So this brings us to the next step, which is the fold. So for this, it's very simple. A little container of water on the side again. So dip your finger in the water. And what we're going to do, grab the dough from the side, stretch it as much as you can, and fold it on the opposite side, okay? Turn a quarter, grab the dough, stretch it, and fold it. Once again, we're going to do this all around the dough. Voilà. One more time. Just grab all the dough, stretch it, and fold it. Alright? This is just to build some strength once again in our dough. Voilà. So when this is done, very simple step. We put back the cloth on top, and rest for another 2 hours. Then we are going to pre-shape the dough, okay? Okay, so on to the next step, which is the pre-shaping. So for that, very simple, we are going to take a little bit of dusting flour that I've got here, a little bit on top of my dough, voilà. And I'm going to flip it on the table, okay? So using my scraper to scrape, voilà. And just really, voilà. Dump it on your table, just like that, okay? Okay, now so what we are going to do, it's kind of another fold basically that we are giving, alright? So grab the bottom of the dough, flip it to the middle, up the top to the bottom, the left to the right, and the right to the left, okay? Bit of flour. When this is done, use your scraper and just up, flip it upside down, right? So you can use your scraper once again to just go around your dough, right? Just give it a nice round shape, right? You see, and once again we can feel we are building some tension into our dough. Voilà, just like that. That's perfect. So we leave it rest like this for another 30 minutes, and then it's the shaping, and that will be our last step of the day, okay? I see you in 30 minutes. Okay, so here is the last step of today. So what we are going to do, take our banton, okay? Little bit of flour, I mean generously dusted, okay? Everywhere. A little bit on the top of our dough, just like so. So using the scraper, we are going all around just to unstick it from the table, okay? So all the way around, and we flip it. So now the shape is very simple. Simply you take the dough from the bottom to the top, from left to the right, from the right to the left, then you take the top to the bottom, okay? And now we are just going to roll it, just like so, all right? Now again with your scraper, we are going around, give it a nice and round shape, okay? Voilà. We can really feel the strength into the bread now. All right. Dusting on top of the bread, generously, and we are going to flip it upside down in our banton, okay? So using the scraper, up, take it, flip it, and into the banton. So now, we are just going to put a cling film on top, place it in the fridge for 10 to 12 hours, maybe 14 hours, okay, depending on your schedule. And I see you tomorrow or after these 10 or 12 hours to bake the bread, and that will be the last step of our baking. So see you in a bit. Okay, so we are now the next day. Our bread has been resting in the fridge for 10 to 12 hours, so it's now time to bake it. So for this I like to use a Dutch oven. If you don't have a Dutch oven, we can simply use a baking tray. We are going to use a very similar technique anyway. I'm going to tell you about that in a second. But if you have a Dutch oven, we are going to put our oven maximum temperature 250 degrees Celsius, okay? We put the Dutch oven in the oven, we wait for 20 to 30 minutes, we want it really, really hot, and then we are going to put the bread inside and cook it, okay? So let's preheat the oven, put the Dutch oven in it, or your baking tray if you have, and I'll see you in a second and I show you how to do it. Little tips for you, if you are using a Dutch oven, I like to cut a piece of parchment paper this shape. Basically that will help me to place the dough in the Dutch oven. I will put the bread on it, slice it, and then use the two little handles to gently put the bread in the Dutch oven. It prevents myself from like burning my finger, you know, putting the bread inside. Okay, so that's little tips that you can do with your parchment paper. Just this. If you're using a baking tray, it would be simple for you. Simply tilt the bread on the baking tray and that will be done. Okay, so my Dutch oven is fairly hot now, so I'm going to remove it from the oven, put my dough on the parchment paper, slice it, and then we're going to put it in the Dutch oven and bake it. Okay, so let's do this. I'll use the gloves. Up. Up. So now it's really hot. Okay. So the bread on the parchment paper. Okay. Voilà. Just a little bit, that's okay. Now, using the blade, I'm going to slice it. You can do one slice, you can do multiple slices as you wish, okay? I might do 4 today. I might do a square. Up. Up. Okay. Perfect. Now we're gonna take the bread, put it in, just like so, and now it's ready to bake. So in the oven, 250 degrees for about 25 minutes. If you are using a baking tray at this time, when you put it in, little tips, you can use a little ramekin or little bowl of water. Put it in your oven just to create some steam. It will give you a better shine and a better crust on your bread, okay? So let's bake this. We put a timer, 25 minutes, okay? And I see you then. 25 minutes in, so it's time to remove the bread. Okay, so let's see. So the bread we can see has nicely risen. So now I'm going to put it back without the lids for another 15 to 20 minutes just to get a nice crust and a very nice color on it, okay? So back in the oven, 15 to 20 minutes. If you are using a baking tray, you don't have to do this, just close your oven, maybe reduce a little bit the temperature to 240, 230, and just keep baking for another 15 to 20 minutes as well until you have the nice colored crust, okay? So I see you in a minute and we will finish this recipe, right? So the bread has been in for another 20 minutes, okay? So I have a cooling rack on the side ready. So I'm just going to remove the bread from the oven. Be careful, it's very hot. And now we're removing the bread from the Dutch oven. Here it is. Look at that. Perfect sourdough bread. So now just let it cool down on the rack and it's ready to enjoy. So now you know how to make the perfect sourdough bread. Don't forget, once again, to feed your starter. Every day is the best. A tablespoon of flour, a tablespoon of water every day. If you don't want to feed it every day, you can keep it in the fridge and just do this process every 3 days, okay? Or once again, if you want to cook only once a month, just keep it in the freezer and the day before start to refresh it and it will be ready to bake. I hope you enjoyed it and I see you soon. Please share your creation with us on social media. I will be happy to see it and see you soon. Thank you.